Hello there, people of the internet. Kevin is screaming today. You're gonna hear him. I'm out here at the old range, which is the range that I was using back whenever I first started this YouTube channel, because the range that I have been using for quite some time, there's people tearing down trees off in that direction, and I don't want to be firing in that direction while there is people there. So I'm actually just gonna fire downhill right into my lake right here. I do have another position where I can go shoot, but there's always issues with cows over there. And this is just a really convenient spot because my house is literally right here behind me. And I can just walk right outside and start blasting rounds, right? So I'm out here listening to the bullfrogs. I have myself a new rifle. This right here is an M16-esque build. This is obviously not an exact copy of an M16, but it's made to sort of look like one. This is more or less the A1 build, but you know, it's a semi-automatic receiver, and there's a lot of odds and ends and things going on with this thing that really depicts it as not an exact copy of an A1. But for the most part, I can show this off to people who don't necessarily know everything to look at, and they'll recognize it as an M16. Now, this does have a Picatinny rail on the top of the receiver that I just kind of threw a carry handle on. Older A1 models are going to have like the carry handle molded directly into the top of the receiver. I'm not going to go into all the different details on the differences between this rifle and an actual A1 because we'd be here all day. Alright, so I'm going to start off by saying, attention YouTube reviewer, this is obviously a very small magazine, 20 round magazine, clearly not a standard capacity 30 round magazine, so bear that in mind. I'm telling you right now, this is a 20 round magazine. Very clearly not a regular magazine. Alright, now as for what this thing actually is, it is a PSA upper receiver, so it is kind of a poverty build. This was not very expensive to get my hands on, but it is a PSA upper, obviously long barrel. We got an M16 style handguard on this thing, or a full rifle length gas system, so I can fire basically any kind of ammunition I want out of this thing. 1-in-7 twist barrel. So I guess I can't really go for your extremely lightweight ammunition, but I mostly stick to 55 and 62 grain, so 1-in-7 will do just fine. This is a KP lower, nothing real special about this thing. Just throw them together. Now the magazine is a little bit on the special side, because this is, originally whenever I got this, I was planning on using this magazine specifically for aesthetic purposes, because this is a 350 AR-15 magazine, not a 223/556 AR-15 magazine. And I got it specifically so I could stick it in the rifle and put it up, you know, on my wall and have it, you know, match the aesthetics of having an M16 as opposed to having a standard capacity magazine in it and it just not really looking right. So this was not intended to be an actual magazine for use, but I was looking at it and I was like, you know what? I bet I could cram some 223 in there. So I crammed some 223 into here, and lo and behold, it doesn't quite fit as well as it would in an actual 223 magazine, but it fits well enough to fit into the rifle and actually feed. I'm still yet to have a malfunction with this thing. Sights on this thing, ghost ring sights, complete with a M16 front sight. Nothing real special going on with this thing. I have it zeroed out to like 100 yards, and since we're going to be shooting at, I don't know, I think we're at 20, I'm just going to be shooting at that box right there. I'm expecting these rounds to hit a little high, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because this is not exactly a competition rifle. It could be made to be much more accurate than it is, but with where it stands, it's not exactly accurate. I got probably about 3 MOA on this thing. For an AR-15, that is absolutely acceptable accuracy, especially considering the poverty build that this thing is. I do like that the carry handle and the front sight are actually iron. This is the only AR that has iron sights on it as opposed to plastic iron sights. Okay, the bolt carrier group in this thing, I'm not sure where the bolt carrier group actually came from. This thing does not have a forward assist on it, but the bolt carrier group is a forward assist bolt carrier group, so it's obviously not original to this upper receiver, but it does headspace properly, and it does shoot, and it cycles just fine, so I'm not exactly concerned about having these
little notches right here for the bolt carrier group that would otherwise not be there on your original M16s. Like I said, there's a lot of aesthetic differences between this and a real one, and we're not gonna go into that. We're not gonna discuss that. Maybe I'll get me like one of those what do they call them, solder guns, and I'll very delicately solder Colt's information here on the side, and then this will just be the side of the rifle that I have on the wall for people to come look at. And then they're gonna, anyone who knows what they're looking at, they're gonna be like, wow, that's a load of crap. But anyone who doesn't know, and I show this to a lot of people who don't know, they'll be like, hey, that's pretty cool. And that's the people that I go for. Let me go grab my ears. All right, I would have preferred the 3-prong flash hider on this thing, because it's just so iconic. But the birdcage flash hider, it's good enough. This is not one of those birdcage A2 flash hiders that has the compensator, or that kind of acts as a compensator, if you know what I'm talking about, how it covers the bottom so the gas more or less comes out the top. For the most part, this thing right here does seem to work pretty well. I have used this in low light situations, and it actually works a lot better than the flash hiders that compensate, and I gotta admit, I'm a little bit surprised on that. Besides that, charging handle, standard charging handle in the rear. Thank you, Kevin. There's Kevin. Told you guys he'd show up. The trigger, not great, not bad. The safety, I'm not a fan of the safety on these KP-15s. They're just not the best. And, oh, what else? I think the trigger, it's definitely better than a mil spec. I think it breaks at like 4 pounds approximately, but there's a little bit of travel, and it's a single stage trigger. So there's no wall or anything that you have to break through, but for the most part, it's at least easy to get through. And thank you, Kevin. She does actually cycle, which is a big plus. I know I was having some issues with this thing. Are you done yet? My God! Not yet. There we go. I know I was having some issues with this thing getting it to cycle at first, but it did not take a whole lot to get this thing running properly. So now I have this M16-esque build that I can use for videos talking about history, development, things that the military was going to. There's a lot of stuff that I can do with a build like this. I was looking to do a lot of these videos using like my modern day style ARs. I have 2 others, an Omnimax Hybrid and a Delton. Echo 16, I think, is the designation for that one. Delton DTI 15. But those are definitely more of a modern aesthetic, modern style platform of AR, whereas this one right here is very clearly a retro build. And I can go ahead and show off a lot of development using this as a representation for where it is that the platform actually came from. Not an exact copy, mind you. I'm going to keep pointing that out because somebody's going to go down in the comments and they're going to scream about how it's not actually that. I could have an exact copy of something and they're going to scream about how it's not actually the thing because it's not very specifically built by the company that built that. But I do have a lot of plans. I've been wanting to get myself something like this. I'd like to get myself one of Brownell's AR-10 platforms as well. That would be really, really cool to have. But that will be something later down the road. I don't exactly have an endless budget to work with. If you'd like to support my work, then hey, Patreon's down below. But besides that, like I said, I have a lot of plans with this thing. So, yeah, I have a lot of plans with this thing. I have myself actually a whole list of videos that I was planning on doing with one of these if I ever managed to get my hands on it. And guess what? Now I have my hands on one. I'm very, very happy with it too. I will say that with the polymer lower receiver and the polymer everything on this firearm, it is incredibly light for the size that it is. This does have a pencil barrel on it as well, just like the old school M16s did have, so it's going to get more accurate the more rounds that you're using. It's going to get pretty inaccurate pretty quickly, but the weight, the amount of weight that this thing shaves off is absolutely astronomical. We do have a bayonet lug on the end of this thing. I do not know what bayonet this thing takes, if it takes a bayonet. I'm going to assume that it is there just for aesthetic purposes, but I'm not going to put any money on that. I do have a couple of bayonets that I'm going to go ahead and try. Maybe I'll get lucky and maybe one will fit, but I'm pretty sure that it's just there to look like it has the means to attach a bayonet. Alright, if you guys have anything that you want to see on this particular rifle or on any subjects regarding M16s. Now I have the means to go ahead and do that. I love making history videos on these different rifles that the United States military has used and fielded, so keep that in mind. So let me know if you guys have anything that you want to see on me using this right here. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. This right here is pretty much just an introduction to this rifle right here. I have taken it out to some distances. It's pretty accurate, like I said, about 3 MOA, but I do not have the means to actually run it at a distance right now. That's just the way the life goes. I can't remember what I've done so far with my my outro here, so I'm just going to say thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. Description down below has a link to all sorts of different stuff. Go ahead and go check that out, and you guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I have like 6 rounds left in this firearm right here. I'm going to go ahead, make some B-roll footage, and just run through them. Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. The poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.